All right, so let me tell you a very short story in 10 seconds. In primary school, I remember that I attended a public school, and to get your board, ready for the following week, there was an exercise that we indulged in. For the ones that went to the local level setting and all of that, you have to grind some kind of leaf, and then there was maybe charcoal, and then you paint your board to darken your board.
So we all did that.
We all did that. So many things coming to mind today. But times have changed now, where technology is taking over, where you get maybe internet, electric boards to teach students. So many things are coming into play to really ease the learning and teaching across board. This morning we want to take a look at the need to reform the educational sector in the country by promoting skills and developing technology that can really make our students learn faster and better. This morning we're being joined by Dr. Peter Michael Piper. He's an educationist and civil society activist. Good morning, Doctor. Did you also paint your board with the leaf and charcoal?
Good morning, and thanks for having me. Well, we all belong to the same generation of people who have to go through all of that. Yeah. So, and maybe that's why we're so passionate about reforming our education system. Thank you so very much.
All right. I kind of like the name, Dr. Peter Michael Piper. Very rhythmic, beautiful, beautiful name. We'll come to you to kickstart the conversation. But before then, let's take a listen to a report that was put together by one of us looking at the concerns around the education sector. Then we can come back to Dr. Peter for further interrogations.
The history of formal education in Nigeria can be traced back to Methodist missionaries who started the first primary school in 1843. A decade later, in 1854, some Christian missionaries started CMS Grammar School in Lagos, which became the first secondary school in Nigeria. After the amalgamation of the northern and southern part of Nigeria by Lord Lugard in 1914, there was a growing demand for schools. However, after the successes recorded over the years, it is apparent that the current system is not meeting the needs of Nigerians. It is in light of this that the Minister of State for Education, Nana Opia, recently highlighted some plans for reforms in the education sector.
One of the unique steps we have taken so far in the curriculum transformation plan is the democratization of our curriculum review process to give voice to all critical stakeholders, including parents and students. This approach lays emphasis on the bottom-up approach to curriculum policy formulation for effective and sustainable implementation process.
Taking on their expectations from the incoming administration, the proprietors of Jewel Leading Lights Academy
Development.
All right, thank you once again for having me. Now, before we even begin to talk about this, do we have a curriculum in Nigeria? We need to first understand what is going on. There is a difference between schooling and education. So that someone is going to school doesn't necessarily translate to that person having certification. And that's exactly what we are providing in this country. What we need to do is to provide education. And the end point of education is not certification, it is the acquisition of knowledge and skills. So I've listened to all the other speakers talking about education reform, remodeling our education system, our curriculum, and so on. But I want to say we don't even have a curriculum. So to start from the basics, what is a curriculum? We don't have a curriculum. let me put this in perspective before I go any further. In 27 years from now, precisely in the year 2050, it is estimated that the Nigerian population will be about 450 million Nigerians. I want you to think about this critically. Our geographical space is not going to expand. The roads are not expanding. Nothing is expanding. But our population in 27 years from now, which is not a very long period of time, is going to be about 450 million Nigerians. And that is still a very conservative estimate. So what you call a curriculum really means the entirety of what you do in the system to provide knowledge and skills. And before you talk about a curriculum, you begin to first analyze the problems. What problems are we going to face in 2050? When our population becomes about 450 million people, what kind of industries are we going to need? What kind of entrepreneurship are we going to need? What kind of skills are we going to need? What are the problems we will face? When we have the answers to this question, then we now go back and build a curriculum that is designed specifically to fix these problems. That's really when you're talking about a curriculum. Because a curriculum is everything you do to provide education. And education, like I said, the end point of education is not certification, is skills and knowledge. And you need those skills and those knowledge to solve specific problems. So when everyone is talking about curriculum reform, you don't even have a curriculum. So what are you reforming?
Dr.
So before
Piper,
you start talking about the curriculum, first analyze the problem.
all right.
So what are the problems we have in Nigeria? What are the industries we need to create? And it is based on this that we now build a curriculum that will teach people to acquire these skills and knowledge to have a functional a country or a functional society.
All
what
right,
we're
Dr.
doing
Piper.
right now is schooling. We're
If
just
you
sending
were
them to
listening-
school. We're not educating them.
If you listened at the beginning of the show, I did ask a question as to the curriculum that we have. You say we don't have any, but these schools across the country do have templates by which they teach students. So one can say that suffices to be a curriculum as we speak. Now, if it's not the kind of curriculum we should be running, that may be for another situation that we can talk about. I'm not changing your mind. I'm just trying to present the situations that we have as the people in the education sector today. Now, if we don't have a curriculum, no template for students to learn through at this point in time, then we can be talking about the need to deploy technology or to how to develop the sector and what have you. So if we told the line of the school of thought which you belong to that, okay, we have to fashion the curriculum after present day realities as people, our needs, our wants as a people, then how do we start to channel through to get to the end, that expected end as a people in the education sector in the country?
Thank you very much for that brilliant question. So instead of talking about remodeling the curriculum, we should be talking about developing a curriculum. And I say quite clearly that before you start talking about developing a curriculum, the first thing is to analyze what are the problems we have. What are the solutions to these problems? So when we know these are the problems, these are the solutions, and then we begin to say, how how do we transfer knowledge, skills, the capability, to solve these problems? And that is where you base your education or your curriculum upon. So it's easy to talk about Finland. It's easy to talk about South Korea. It's easy to talk about Denmark. But go look at it critically. What's happening in Nigerian schools today? You see them hoisting a British flag, and all you see is British curriculum. We do American curriculum. We do a Canadian curriculum. The British curriculum is meant for the British. The American curriculum is designed to solve the problems of the Americans. We need a unique curriculum that is tailored and designed to solve Nigerian problems. So it begins with first analyzing what are the problems we are faced with. What are the type of skills that our people need to have and develop? So when we have analyzed and we have been able to itemize all of these, we now begin to fashion a curriculum that is aimed at creating the competence, the capabilities to achieve these results. The curriculum we've been working on were fashioned for us by our colonial masters. And all they needed to achieve is to have literacy, people who can read and write, who can function in the ministries, who can do this and do that. Present day reality is different.
So we have,
by the year 2050,
Dr. Peter,
some of these things we call our education or skills will no longer be required, because artificial intelligence is going to wipe away all of this. We can see what's going on with ChatGPT, and even a time will come when you wouldn't need to be sitting there as broadcasters, because artificial intelligence can actually do your job quite well. A time will come when all these teachers we are talking about may no longer be required. So we need to redefine
Dr. Piper,
the curriculum.
Yes.
So it's not about modeling. It's not about remodeling the curriculum. I think we need a total overhaul. And this has to be done in consonance with the reality on ground. I think you have some questions. Yes, I can see you.
We have
you really want to ask something.
We have just about 15 minutes to deal with the concerns, or even less, to deal with the concerns that have been raised. Yes, you talked about the fact that identifying the problem is very key. So let's try and see how much we can identify the problem. So let's hear from you. What are the problems that needs to be fixed, or that a current curriculum would have to fix within the education sector? Coming from you.
Thank you very much. For instance, when you go to the schools, we are still depending on textbooks. The publishers are still bringing textbooks. So we are still doing reading, writing, when we should be having software development, when we should be developing artificial intelligence. We are still emphasizing on the learning and study of English language. Nigeria today, for instance, we have 382 tribes in Nigeria. And some of us know we have a lot more than that. And these tribes are speaking about 625 languages. Some of these languages are yet to evolve into the written form. So we have a lot of educated Nigerians who cannot write or read in their own mother tongue. So what is the definition of illiteracy? Someone who can neither read nor write. So that you can read and write in English simply means you are literate in English. If you can't read and write in Urobo language, Shekiri language, Ijaw language, you are still an illiterate in those languages, even though you could be a professor in whatever. Let me just give you an example why I'm talking about this. Recently, I had a conversation with someone from the north, and that really changed my mindset about the quality of education I myself have received. And after having this conversation, it was time to go, and the guy said, say Gobe, and in reply, I said, Gobe, and he started laughing. And I asked, why are you laughing? He said, he's laughing because I said Gobe. And I said, but you just asked me to say Gobe, and I said Gobe, so what happened? He said, no, I never asked you to say Gobe. I said, are you going to be lying? I heard you. I heard you. You said it. You said, say Gobe. I said Gobe, and now, is this some kind of prank? And he said, no, that say Gobe in his mother tongue, in the Hausa language, means see you soon or see you next time. Now, I begin to question my own education. With all my years of schooling, I didn't even know a simple greeting in Hausa language. The problem is not with me, it's the curriculum. So right now, we should be talking about how to develop software. Most of these things the teachers are talking about in the classroom can simply be turned into simple algorithms. And with artificial intelligence, even a child who decides to stay at home can learn most of these things. So we need to distinguish between schooling and education. What we are providing is schooling, and the end product is certification. What we need in Nigeria is education, and the end product of that is the acquisition of knowledge and skills. And to do that, we have to go into technology. We have to start developing artificial intelligence for almost everything. We live in a digital age. So when you're talking about this curriculum, the government is going to come up and say, well, we have just designed a new curriculum. And what are they going to come up with? A book. In the 21st century, they're going to come up with a book, and they're going to put a prize on the book, and they're going to tell all the schools, this is the new education curriculum. Go buy the book and check chapter this, check this page, and that. We're kidding ourselves. We need to throw away the curriculum, the perceived curriculum we have now, and begin to completely overhaul, redesign a new curriculum. And if this government is serious about it, we need a new mindset. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Piper. It's obvious that wishes are not horses. If not, even those that are lesser than beggars, if there are people around like that, would ride. You've talked about what is proper, what is ideal in the present day reality, best practices across the globe. But we seem to have our peculiarities as a nation, which have been challenges we've had to deal with, that we're still dealing with as we speak. And the education sector is not exempted from this. With what we have as a nation, that, at least to the best of your knowledge, and what we need to get to where you are talking about this morning, what do we have to bring together to achieve these the heights?
Thank you very much once again for such an intelligent question. What we need to do first is analyze the problem. When we analyze our problems, we will be able to find out the solution, and these solutions will determine the curriculum. That's what's going to determine, do we need more software engineers? Do we need people with this type of capabilities? And if these are the kind of people we need, then what should we be teaching in the colleges of education, in the universities? So that is where we have to start from. What should we be teaching our people in the primary school? When we know that in 27 years from now, our population is going to be 450 million Nigerians.